I felt lost. Um, I was challenged with things, business, wife. All of these things were coming to this place where my soul goes, uh, get still, get quiet, spend time in the void or in silence. And
Mm-hmm.
so I began to wake up every morning and do that. And I was in that space for 2.5 months of 2019, the beginning of the year. It was just kind of a quick meditation, guided meditations of 5 minutes, that kind of a thing,
Mm-hmm.
15 minutes. And then at some point, I go, I don't need the audio.
Hey, welcome everyone to another episode of the Robert Patton Global Podcast. I'm here with Stephen Sato.
Yes. Hi.
How's it going?
It's going well.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a while since I've done an in-person podcast, so
Yeah. Well, I've never done one. So
Okay.
This is my very first one.
all right, we're breaking you in.
You are.
But you have been helping me work on my public speaking a little bit.
Correct.
Yeah, so I was going to call you a professional public speaker because you're like so good.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely in the process of getting better, like everything else in my life, one step at a time, one day at a time. And
Yeah.
I thought it was really interesting how one of our members found you.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Victor, and he just came in and knew about your business and knew what it was doing, and he was inspired to just meet you. And that was kind of the impetus for it all, yeah?
Yeah, he was bugging me for a couple of months even, just telling me about Toastmasters, and I had heard about it quite a few times over the last
Yeah.
decade.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's going to be too expensive, which it's not. It's basically
Mhm.
free. In my
Basically.
like $80 for 6 months or something.
The most cost-effective growth tribe you'll ever find.
Yeah, and everybody's trying to grow as an individual and get over
Mhm.
their fear of public speaking. What do they say about public speaking?
Number one fear.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like people would rather get bitten, like have spiders crawling all over them or something.
Yeah, I actually had a little bit of that coming into this. It was kind of how I felt going into maybe my first public speaking opportunities. And now what I do is I take that energy and I kind of redirect it, and it allows me to project or just show up. And so it's a kind of an alchemy of that energy that I've learned through the speaking process.
How long have you been doing that?
5 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because when you do the Toastmasters,
Yes.
and because when we have to get up and speak in front of everyone
Mhm.
in the group, and every time you get up, you will like take a second, and I see you kind of like, you almost like flex too or something.
Do I?
I don't know.
Yeah.
And then, but you start off with a smile,
Internal flex.
and then you just murder it every time.
Yeah, I feel like I have so much to improve on. The first time that speaking became a thing for me was when I was finishing up my college gig at MSU Denver, and I was connected to the student scholarship department, and I was kind of an ambassador for them, non-traditional older student going back to school at age
Mhm.
34.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, you same, yeah.
Yeah.
So first person in the classroom, front row,
Mhm.
interacting with the teacher. It was very different from when I was 25 years old, because back then I didn't really care when I did my first 2 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I had an opportunity to speak in front of the donors, all of these donors and all these foundations, and there was 500 people
Whoa.
in the audience, and I was sat next to Mayor Hancock, and he spoke first. So he led me, and I had to speak after him. And his presentation, he's so influential and charismatic that I was a little bit,
Yeah,
beside
shook.
myself. But I got up, and I had meditated quite a bit on this talk that I wanted to give, and I gave it a lot of energy and effort. So when I showed up in that one instance, I got up, lit up the whole room. They all got out of their seats, standing ovation.
Wow.
And they all came to me afterwards, and they were congratulating me and telling me how important the message that I had given to the donors was, to inspire them to fund more, etc. And that feeling stayed with me for about 5 days, and I was lit up from that experience, and I've been chasing that ever since.
Wow.
And maybe I need to find a bigger stage from time to time to get a little bit more dialed in.
Yeah,
And
showcase what
yeah.
you're capable of. The first public speaking I got like introduced with, I guess was open mics and stand-up comedy in
Oh, really?
San Antonio, Texas.
Very nice.
And the first time I went on stage, I killed.
Yes.
But then I realized that you have to say the same monologue or dialogue every time, and I was like, this is too robotic. I felt like, so I wanted to switch it up every time, but that's not how stand-up comedy works. You do the same act over and over and over, and tweak it and perfect it and based on the audience reaction.
Yeah.
And I actually feel like our little Toastmasters Club is a mini open mic
Agreed.
opportunity.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily telling jokes, but it's telling stories.
Stories are important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Inject humor.
Yeah. How we look at our life and the experiences that we've had, and to be able to express them in an open forum with people that you don't know in your internal circle, for me, did something special where it expanded me and opened me up to some of the pains and hurts I had in my life. And when I first joined the speaking kind of group, I was able to tell some of those stories, and quite frankly, it healed me. It healed me of some of these, traumas I had held with me for my whole life.
Wow.
And that's why sharing that message of telling your story is so important to me, is because of the impact that it had on me and what it did for my life.
Wow. Okay. I never thought of it as an opportunity. It's like therapy.
Yeah.
I mean, for you.
For me, I took it that way, and I don't know why I did that. Maybe my soul heart was ready to kind of enter into that kind of unknown place of my psyche and address it. And yeah, it did some special things for me.
Interesting. I know a couple of times after class, you had approached me about my speech and my focus on meditation and spirituality, and you were like, I'm on that same journey. And
correct.
What is like your affiliation or like connection to spirituality?
Yeah.
Like,
Thank
what
you.
do you
Thank you for that question, and I love that you have that you're spinning.
pyramid?
I want to hear about that as well. My experience is that I was raised by a single parent mother. I am Japanese Irish, so my father came to America. So I have a bit of the Shinto Buddhism kind of inside of my DNA, I say, and I kind of have that knowing, ancestral kind of like knowing. And we grew up in the South. My father passed away when I was 8 months old. We were to be raised with my siblings in Sendai, Japan, and we came back and were raised in North Carolina with the Riggins, our Scottish Irish background. And so my journey of faith was Baptist, upbringing, clapping hymns and
Southern Baptist.
doing the church thing, right?
Yeah.
And then at probably age 13 or 14, my mom dated a Cherokee individual that was a bit of this kind of leader of this Native American group. And I had the opportunity as a young person to do the peace pipe ceremony before sweat lodges.
Yeah.
It seems to be a strange experience. I was really young, and I was smoking tobacco and calling out like the directions. So I had that lens or experience. And then 2011, there was an earthquake in Sendai, Japan. It was called the Great Earthquake, Eastern Earthquake of Japan. I don't know if you've heard of it or not.
No, but I was concerned about the end of the world, the Mayan calendar ending in 2012. So it was right around the same time frame, and that's when I moved here.
Yeah.
Because I was like, let me get up to the mountains in case there's a great flood.
Nice.
but you're basically
You got a bunker out on some acreage.
no, we're just hoping to not get submerged in the water because we're so high in elevation.
Yeah, it feels real safe here to me as well, and good people, good community in Woodland Park, I feel. But that earthquake was like a shaking of my experienced soul. And at the time, I was in automotive sales, and I had been doing automotive sales for 7 years. And so this earthquake happened, and I remember I was in the showroom of this Honda dealership, and I just had this sense of dread that I had lost all my family.
Whoa.
So the epicenter of the wave came in directly, landed on where all their homes were. They were covered in water for 3 days, up to like 8 to 10 feet. And so all their homes were destroyed, right? And in my feeling of not knowing what to do and not knowing how to help, I formed a nonprofit and did volunteer fundraising, building a board, and 6 months later I quit my job and I went to Japan, and I did 5 weeks of volunteer work, and it transformed. It was another kind of step of my own. It transformed this dramatically because I never had the opportunity as a young person to do volunteer work because
to like contribute to society.
Yeah, my
or
family
whatever.
and I, we were struggling, the single parent mother household, siblings, and I was out on my own when I was 17 years old. And so this gave me an opportunity to give back, and it showed me a different way to kind of show up and serve. And when I came back from that experience, I had a moment when I was there where I was at a temple, and this fellowship is called Shumei. They actually have a center in Crestone, Colorado, along with this Buddhism center, which I've given you this little piece as a thank you for allowing me to share some space with you.
Well, I'll have to open this up. I know, but I want to hear a little bit more because you kind of, I don't know if it's a touchy subject, but
Yeah.
you said their houses were submerged in 8 to 10 feet of water. Were they, did they make it?
Thank you for asking. They all survived. My grandmother, who was at like 87 at the time, was hoisted off of her nursing home facility by helicopter. And a couple of my cousins were driving in their car, being chased by the tsunami wave.
Wow, like a movie.
Yeah, really interesting times and experiences for me. But I was at a temple in Fukushima where the nuclear reactor exploded, and I was teaching English to the students through song, and I had never done something like that. So it was this kind of stretchy thing for me. The nuclear reactors were off in the distance. But before we did that lesson plan, we had a just a prayer chant opportunity. And the voices were so resonant within this group of maybe 30 people, I felt something. And I'm like, oh, that feels interesting. And so when I came back, I became a member. And I was inducted to this fellowship, this Japanese spiritual fellowship on 11/11/11. And I never knew that that was my life path number, but I found out years later that it was. And that was kind of like the start for me to like enter into something greater, faith, a deeper meaning behind this kind of matrix, this web of things that's kind of moving. And yeah, and then there's some other stuff.
Yeah, I mean the external world can be overwhelming, but it's all like as within. So without, if you can calm your inside, the external world seems to calm down with your internal vibration, I guess. I mean, like I have this Egyptian pyramid, but I like to watch a lot of YouTube videos and about ancient Egypt, particular. But they would say like as above, so below, or as below, so above. No, I don't know if I'm getting it right.
Hermetic principles, philosophies.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm a little bit aware of some of those modalities for kind of entering into places, sacred places of your heart and soul. So I'm studying that. I feel like I'm a practicing kind of mystic of sorts,
Nice.
where I spend probably an hour and a half every morning in deep prayer and meditation. I typically wake up around 5 o'clock in the morning, and I have a whole kind of ritualistic routine around it. And I always say, if there was anything, a gift that could be given to humanity, it would be like stillness,
Yeah.
going inward, having that understanding of your own internal world, and what it means to be able to enter that place and gain some insight to show up in a greater way in life and your community.
Yeah. Because everyone's so go, 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 busy, busy, busy. And
Facts.
you never take the time to, like, I've talked about it in our group, and just like my greatest gift as of late has been learning how to meditate properly.
Yeah,
And
I want to hear about that. Yeah.
well, so I do transcendental meditation, and it was created from Guru Dev, who taught the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who brought it to the Western world in the 70s.
Yeah.
And it's essentially a mantra meditation, but you don't externalize the mantra or chanting. It's all like, it's like a mental mantra. And so you're turning within.
Yes.
And a lot of people have a misconception that to learn how to do TM is very expensive. It's not that expensive. In fact, they have a tiered payment plan, and you're like, well, why do I have to pay? I guess technically you don't have to pay. I'm on this subreddit on meditation, and people are like complaining about TM and it's too expensive. It's not. It's can be free if you just tell them you're not making enough money. But if you do make plenty of money, it's actually priceless. So the price I paid was $800.
Yeah.
Which to me, and I'm at that's the top tier
thing.
Yeah, it was not like, it was so worth it.
Yeah.
I would pay $8,000, but I'm in a different situation than a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I was trying to meditate. I've been trying to meditate for years, and I would do it on and off, and I would just kind of do it for 10 minutes or 5 minutes, and maybe whenever I felt the urge to do it. But now it's more like preemptive. So, and I do it 2 times a day, first thing in the morning and
Nice.
once in the afternoon. And since January, so it's been about 4 months.
Amazing.
I do not miss any like morning or afternoon meditation because I don't want to. It's not, and like, it's not like this guilt thing. It's like, I enjoy it. It feels like a drug. And I've done a handful of drugs in my day.
Yeah, I have too, as a young person.
Yeah.
Going through life, and I actually think some of those helped me in a way, right, to experience a grand moment that I had in meditation 4 years ago, having witness to things that are kind of beyond the veil of our normal consciousness. Is a gateway, right? So some use that as a gateway. I feel that the more sustaining way that will serve one for a long time is to go in your own meditation, in your own space, clear. And I believe that's the sustainable way long term that will serve someone. But I don't really care how anyone gets there, because they're all valuable.
Yeah, but some people, paths. I mean, it's like chasing the dragon, and for if you're like a heroin addict or cocaine. And I know a lot of people are like, psychedelics is the new gateway to enlightenment in Silicon Valley, and a lot of people, including the community that I'm affiliated with through my friends and my brother. He's probably watching this.
Nice.
And he worked for the guy that made the movie DMT, The Spirit Molecule.
Oh, wow.
Which is on Netflix, and it was
amazing.
I don't know if you've heard of
I've
DMT.
watched all those
documentaries,
as many as I can, and I have a calling to go to Peru
Oh yeah.
and be present with a group of friends that want to go on that experience, and I just want to hold space.
Do ayahuasca.
Yeah, that, who knows if I would go down that path. I may just to kind of connect in deeper with the group.
Yeah.
Or I might just show up and hold space.
Yeah.
That's
That's a commonly used phrase, the holding space for the group.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've done ayahuasca, I've done DMT.
Oh my gosh, nice.
And
Yeah.
I didn't like the ayahuasca, but I feel like I might have gotten a bad batch.
Yeah.
DMT was a whole other experience where I feel like I did break through to another dimension and literally see just another dimension. I was going to say the inner workings of the universe, but the beings that I encountered when I was there turned to me. They were doing their own thing. I like traveled through a wormhole, if you will, and I popped in on what was like, it was like a glass house, and there were these jesters, and they were drinking tea.
Oh my gosh.
And they turned to me like, and he went like that, and no words, but I internalized or interpreted him saying, we're here, we exist, but you don't need to be here. You've seen it, it's real, but go back to your dimension and do the work you need to do there. I know I have heard of other experiences from other people that have done DMT where there was jesters, which these were jesters, which is really weird. And this is after my experience. I heard this. And they'll like shoot the bird, which it wasn't the bird, it was this. So, but similar.
Entities of sort.
Yeah.
Right, that manifest in a certain way that you can actually internalize and receive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it made me
fascinating.
feel as though there is life after death or consciousness outside the physical,
100%.
which, a lot of people fear that. And it was really confirming of, maybe it's not Jesus, and maybe it is Jesus, maybe it's whatever
Aspects,
the greater entity or the universal God force that exists. There's something bigger than this.
100%. Yeah, I think we're doing this for a specific reason. I think you came into the club. We linked for a reason. The threads with people and places are so important. My experience of doing heavy meditation for a full year led me to some really transcendental moments and mystical moments that they feel, and they're likened when I watch shows on near-death experiences.
Yeah.
And I hear what the people are seeing, what they're kind of feeling, and how they come back in a greater way to show up with more clarity. So mine happened in a different modality, yeah. I began meditation and prayer when I was at my ground zero.
Rock bottom?
Rock bottom, dark night of the soul moment where I first moved to Colorado Springs and everything was going amiss. My intuition was no longer, I was no longer hearing the path.
Yeah.
It was completely cloudy, muffled. And I hear that happens where before you have a spiritual awakening, your guides will kind of vacate. they'll take a hike, and then other ones will be installed. Yeah. So I've kind of heard that, and it feels true because I felt that. I felt lost. I was challenged with things, business, wife. All of these things were coming to this place where my soul goes, get still, get quiet, spend time in the void or in silence. And so I began to wake up every morning and do that. And I was in that space for 2.5 months of 2019, the beginning of the year. It was just kind of a quick meditation, guided meditations of 5 minutes, that kind of a thing, 15 minutes. And then at some point, I go, I don't need the audio.
Yeah, I did. I just got off the audio guided
Yeah.
around like the end of last year. I was
Nice.
The guided meditations are great if you need that, or if you're just starting out, because it can kind of help you find that peaceful like state of being, but at some point you'd like take off the training wheels, so to speak.
Indeed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Headspace, all those are great for that. And I still use those today. But at this moment, those training wheels were kind of removed, as you said. And my intuition said, okay, this morning, go outside and do your practice. This was, what is that, March? So here in Colorado, a lot of snow, still cold. So I would go outside in my backyard, and we were living in Old Colorado City at the time, my wife and I, and barefooted. I would go in the backyard, I'd walk in the snow, and I would do these little circles. And this was all like intuitive. I just did it, and I would put a blanket over me, and I would begin my practice. And I did that for 2 weeks straight, didn't miss a day, went out. The second weekend, I opened my eyes and I saw the world differently. I kind of felt the essence of things. I felt like I was the sap that was in the trees in my backyard, and I could feel like the age of the tree, and I began to hear like the birds chirping off in the distance, and I felt the mountains, and I go, oh, what is this, right?
Connected, you were connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I would go on these outdoor walks, and that feeling stayed with me, and I would feel the essence of like kind of like the air, and it just felt like union, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my business at that time really took off.
Nice.
And so like there's the entrepreneurial part of like meditation, right? Like when you're connected and fully aligned, there's some favor that can come in, and pieces start to align with people and business and services. And everyone that had been saying no to me for the past 6 months, because I had uprooted from Denver and came down south, they all said yes. And I had this massive like kind of income inflection into my business. We bought a house in Woodland Park.
Nice.
When we didn't have a single kind of dime to make that purchase. So we came up here, and I continued on that path, going deep into meditation, prayer. And like you said, I would wake up and I would just be excited to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is going to give me a feeling of wholeness and peace and focus. So I just kept doing it, and my meditations morphed from 30 minutes to 45 minutes to an hour to 2 hours. And this was me breathing heavily, getting still, no audio. And I began to go on these kind of like journeys of my subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel it's more like the quantum space that we're kind of communicating in and out of. And I continued on that path. And at the end of the year, in the middle of November, I went down to Santa Fe, New Mexico, where my family lives, and I was staying with my sister. And it was 3:45 in the morning. I was in her spare room, and my eyes opened, and my intuition goes, go do your practice right now. So I went outside. I put a chair there. I was in my boxers. I put a towel on my head, and it was raining. It was cold. Once again, outside. My feet were on the wet brick and earth of the Santa Fe home. And I began to ask these questions about my life. It was like the spinning energy. I was asking, like, what does this mean to me? What does this part of my life mean? And then I flipped the question. I took it and I spun it the opposite polar of the question. What do I mean to it? And when I made that thread of that connection, this light came into my chest, and it filled up my body, and the cells began to like pulsate.
Nice.
I felt as if I had like my finger in a light socket of a electrical outlet, and it was so all encompassing that my arms, I was trying to hold the energy, so I was like grabbing right here, and I was moaning, sobbing, like loud sobbing, right? And I held this energy for, it could have been an hour or so, and it kind of came to a place where it was enough where I could kind of get my conscious awareness back. And I stood up, and my sister has this sweat lodge in her backyard. I walked down this hill, and I went in front of the sweat lodge, and I was guided. My body was being guided by another kind of energy, and I began to do this ceremony prayer over the entrance of the sweat lodge. They have a rock circle, and I was there was all this energy in my hand, and I was making these movements, and I was speaking in another language. And my own psyche allowed it to happen, and I didn't cause any pause. I just went through the motions, and at the end, I go, ceremony done, got up, walked to my room. It felt like my feet were on fire, felt like they had burst into flames, and I walked into my room, and I had this journal that I had kept with me for that year, and I go, I'm going to write about what I'm experiencing when I travel in my meditational moments. And my hands grabbed the book, grabbed a pen, and I began to write.
Wow.
And a full page came out, and it said something to the effect of, we are here in this lifetime to experience a heart fragment exchange with other people. We're lucky if we do it once. Our goal is to do it once. We're lucky if we do it twice. And it also said the earth, the world is dying, and I am you. Peace be with you. And it all came out in this page, and I was like, what's going on? Mm-hmm. What's going on? And put the book down, and I was just filled up with this energy. So I got my sister in the morning. They had woke up maybe like an hour after I was sitting in the bed processing, and I was like, something just took place inside of me, and I need to tell you about it. So they went to another room, and they're kind of spiritual down in Santa Fe, right? In Mexico, they have this kind of higher vibration. So they got out some sage and some Palo Santos and started hitting me with it, and I was like, okay. And the last 4 years have been an integration of what took place in that moment, right?
Yeah.
I've had another experience almost a year to the date like that. It was here in Woodland Park, and where the same thing happened. It took over my whole body. I was on this hike in the national forest, and I was able to control it more. In fact, I took my hands and I plunged them into the earth to get kind of centered in that second experience. And for a full year, I went to this void and I wrote. So I have 3 journals filled with experiences, past lifetimes, and I've since that moment and those additional moments that have happened, it's never left me. It's always been with me. And when I hear these stories about like near-death experience, people that go through it, I feel that energy I was in was that like unicity, that oneness that is available to us, and we enter it when we pass. We go into this energy field, and it absorbs us, and we become, the far reaches of, the universe, and like the start and the finish, and all of that in one. And I also had this kind of life review that took place. All the moments in my life began to make sense. I was here in this moment, and that meant that, and so all the threads began to connect in, and yeah, man,
this is crazy, dude.
And you're spinning this this pyramid. What I want to ask you, what does that mean to you? Because I have some connection with that too.
I was clicking a pin. It's nothing that deep, honestly, other than I was clicking a pin in a couple of podcasts ago. And my brother was like, instead of clicking a pin, can you get like a fidget spinner or something? And he sent me a couple of
nice. I love it, by the way.
Yeah, there's a couple of different links, and I was like, okay, that's cooler than a pin.
Yeah.
So it's not that deep.
Yeah.
But there's something fascinating, obviously, about the pyramids and the Egyptians, and there's like ancient knowledge and technology that we don't really understand,
100%,
which makes it. There's definitely been ancient civilizations that have disappeared and respawned and just probably disappeared again, and that was one of them. So there's a lot of unknowns that make the world more mystical, and there's just more to life than work and TV and there's you, and my journey within it's just really created a lot of peace in my body. You know, I've
Yeah.
had a lot of anxiety and and maybe even depression, whereas now it seems to solidify my brain into it, because instead of having like a fragmented thoughts, or there's different sections of your brain that like your amygdala or your
Yes.
medulla oblongata or whatever.
Yeah.
And when your brain is working in unison,
Yes.
everything you're not going to have as much stress, because you're
Correct.
processing things more clearly, and your understanding is I don't even know the word, but
Yeah.
you have more understanding, and you're not like paranoid or stressing out about a particular thought loop.
Yeah.
I don't have that problem as much anymore, where I keep going over the same thoughts over and over. It's like your brain processes information better, and you
Completely.
can think more clearly.
Yeah. My best friend passed when I was 23 years old, and he died from a drug overdose, and it destroyed me.
Yeah.
I was in depression and anxiety for 5 years, and it almost took me out, right? I found meditation then, right? And I didn't know what meditation would mean to me today, but I practiced meditation for about 17 years before this experience happened, yeah? And what it gave me was calm. I could actually calm my breath when I had heart palpitations. I was freaking out. I used to have these dreams, man, where I was reaching for the surface of the water, and I was just about to break it, and I couldn't break, and I would wake up in this dread and fear, and it was from losing my best friend and not knowing what that meant, what death meant, and the passing process. But I did this 6-month, at the time it was like a CD set with some DVDs, and it was these group therapy sessions of people talking about their anxiety and depression, and I didn't feel alone when I got into this thing, and it was something I could study from my house. I didn't have to kind of share it and be that vulnerable and be like, because I thought I was, there was something wrong with me, yeah. But I learned it's a human thing. It's the post-traumatic stress of something that happens, and you internalize it in a certain way. So I highly recommend anyone to get into that talk therapy thing for that. But I used to do the ceremonial thing. It was part of the process of this 6-month set. It was called Attacking Anxiety and Depression. And but you would take a pad of paper with you, and during the day you would have a negative or defeating thought, and you would write it on the piece of paper. You would kind of like take it from here and put it somewhere.
Yeah, get it out of you.
Yeah, and then I would go home and ceremoniously burn the page in the backyard.
I've been doing that recently, actually, also, and that's so therapeutic. You write down your worst fears or anxieties and just burn that shit.
Yeah.
And it's magic, or I don't know, but it seems to be working. Every time I do it, I'll have like these just negative thought loops that are really bugging me, and it intuitively I've been writing these things down and burning it. I know I went to La Jolla in January because I was just losing it, and maybe we're in the mountains and the sun was going down at 4:00, and you have like mountain fever or seasonal depression from lack of sun.
Sure.
So I went to California just to meditate and see the beach and journal, and that's when I started journaling. I'm not doing it as good as I was there, but when I am doing it pretty much every day. But there I was like by myself, and my whole time there was devoted to figuring out what was going on with me.
Yeah.
And I know I wrote down a few pages of kind of my worst fears and anxieties, and I went to the beach and just there was a bunch of people walking around. So I'm like, if I light a fire on the beach, somebody's going to be like, hey, what are you doing? So I kind of like tucked under not a bridge, but a barrier. And
Yeah.
I
Did a
just-
little ceremony.
Yeah, I did a little ceremony. And
Energetic
It was
release.
like, it released.
Yeah.
And whatever I wrote, I don't really, I know what it had to do with, and it was kind of personal, so I won't get into it too much, but those anxieties have vanished, and anything that's popped up, I've only had to do it one other time since January, and it just, it I don't know if it's magic, like I said, or what, but it seems to
You're
release.
alchemizing the energy.
The Alchemist, you were mentioning,
Yeah, it's a good book.
it's such a great book, and you were talking about how there was that point where everything started to get cloudy and you weren't able to read the messages from the universe, and that's right before you had this breakthrough. But that's one of the things that I feel like I have, but a lot of people, there's so much noise in their brain that they can't hear the messages from God.
Correct.
And that we have guides in a way that kind of, like help you find your path.
Yeah.
But people are like either stubborn or don't listen, or just, it's like I said, it's too loud. Their mind.
These things. Yeah.
Yeah, the phone.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just for the fact of putting that down, and getting into, even in nature, taking a walk, gosh, that's pretty healing.
Oh man.
Forest bathing, right? It's the terminology for that.
I mean, just taking your shoes off and walking on the earth. And it's funny that it's like you were walking around in the snow barefooted, because I was doing that too not too long ago. A lot of these things you were saying, I was like, whoa, I was doing that. And then you said your dad died, and my dad died, although it was way later. I was in my like mid-20s. But I was also right about to go on my second tour, which is where I came up with the idea for SHEATH. And he just, he kind of killed himself in a way, because he was drinking a lot, and he had the liver thing that happens when you drink a lot, and instead of stopping, he just kept going. And he didn't want to see anyone. He didn't want to see me or my brother. He was doing it kind of in hiding, and just, there's like a country song. You turn the bottle to the, basically you turn the bottle upside down, and he just finished the job. And it was, I never really, I've cried a couple times since then, but at the time I was about to go to Iraq. I'm in the army. I didn't have time to even process it, and you said you were
strong in that moment.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure that had a big impact on your trajectory of your life. And those hurts and those traumas turn into like these amazing gifts for us over time. I don't know if you've gotten to that point with that particular
I'm at
experience,
peace with it. He's like, him and my two grandfathers. They're like the three kings.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
The ancestral wisdom of those elders are within. They're within you, in your biology, right?
Yeah, for
and
sure.
You carry their spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a practice that I do to honor those that have passed on. My father, my grandmothers, and in the Japanese tradition, we have a place in our home. It's called the Butsudan. And what you do is you have an area. It's a good idea to like have it in a specific area, highest of your house, and there's some other kind of parts to be away from water and stuff like that. But you put photos of them, and you light a candle, and you have incense or Palo Santos, and you bring them fruit, you bring them tea or something that they really loved, and you put it in this place, and it's translates to ancestor box, the Butsudan, and it's a way to kind of feed them, feed the energy of the significance of their life, and so who knows? Maybe that's something that you could adopt to honor kind of what they mean to you, and I'm sure you have many ways that you do that already. Yeah.
I just think about them every now and then, and it's if I'm like struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's who I like go to for guidance.
Yeah.
You know, and because without them, we wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here anyways.
Yeah. 100%.
They were good. They were all really good guys.
Yeah.
Ultimately, but life can be hard, and in the the last generation before us, there was not as much information about biohacking and what's good or bad for you, and they were constantly smoking cigarettes and drinking.
Oh my gosh.
And it's like you fools. But they didn't know any better.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and that's what you and I did, because we witnessed it.
Exactly.
And but at some point along the journey, some of their experience got into us, and we go, oh, maybe there's a different way.
Yeah.
You know, and was what was taught to them, and
they didn't know any better. That's the main thing. And like even my mom, you know, they grew up. It's like very a simpler time, and some people might say a better time, because now we're overloaded with information.
Yeah.
But there's so much more information now about how to take better care of yourself, and
oh my gosh,
you know, peak performance, and all these little biohacks and stuff.
Agreed. I remember being in elementary school, and we would walk to school. This was in Key West, Florida, where I grew up. But my best friend that passed, right, we would walk to school together. And we would go to the convenience store to grab a snack. We'd gotten $1 or $2 or whatever, and we'd go into that convenience store, and eyesight was all the tobacco, right?
Yeah.
So we as young kids used to
steal them.
Dude,
we're like the same person. This is funny.
And we would go to the alleyway, and we'd puff on them, and
get a headache.
Yeah, and then go to school as these young kids. But I mean, that's how present and forward-facing those things were that were not good for the body. Yeah.
Yeah.
And but I remember that. And, dollar went a lot further too.
Yeah, that was so bad.
Where were you? Where was your youth?
Georgia, so not too far from Florida. Yeah. Same weather.
I lived in Decatur for a year.
Okay.
Yeah. So I remember Florida.
So you're familiar with the Outcast and Goody Mob? No?
Yeah, of course. Okay. We were in middle school when we were there, and Hootie Hoo came out.
Oh yeah,
everyone down in the hallways was going Hootie Hoo.
Tight like hallways, smoked out always.
Yeah, and it was a gigantic movement there, you know. And then obviously that it just turned into this massive kind of big movement everywhere.
Yeah, they're
awesome.
So they became a part of the culture, you know, not just the Georgia. That area, you know, they blew up all over the world, and really huge influence. Big Boy and whatever the other dude's name is, Andre 3000. Yeah. So you're like Irish and Scottish, which I'm Irish and Scottish,
nice.
With Native American and a bunch of other stuff.
Cool.
I did my ancestry.com. Have you done that?
I have.
Yeah. I'm Jewish. I'm black. I'm like all.
We're a blend. Everyone's a blend, and that's something maybe to understand too. That gosh, so the test I did was the DNA, and it tracked us from Africa to the Andaman Islands, which is this little secluded island, and then the chromosome went up to northern Japan. And that was the father's side, right? And northern Japan is where the Aborigine Japanese population was first, found in time. They're called Ainu, and they look African American.
Oh,
They
wow.
have coarse hair, dark skin, and I was always curious about that because my uncles I had met for the first time when I was 25 were really dark skinned, a little bit bigger noses like I got on my face, and
Interesting.
really kind of curly hair. So I've kind of went down the rabbit hole along with my sister and understanding what that culture means, and they were very similar to Native American communities where they were kind of shunned right over time because they darker complected and they lived off in the mountains. So there's some negative kind of like treatment of them too, which I thought was interesting. But they're really reverent, deep practices for the nature and earth and like what that means. So that's something I'm curious about and learning more about.
Yeah. I mean, we've gotten away from nature for the most part. We're all like into electronic life, um,
Yeah.
and artificial intelligence is on its way. We're
Oh my
going
gosh.
in the direction against Mother Nature a little bit, and a lot of us kind of fantasize about going back to our roots and just like a natural way of living, because it seems like a better time. I don't know. It's like too much.
A little bit of peace.
Yeah.
Deeper community connections.
Slow things down a little bit.
Yeah, I think we're doing a good job here in Woodland of building these community connections. Yeah, so I'm grateful for that, and I look forward to see what happens and how that blossoms out
Yeah.
with the community here. But yeah, it's we grew up in the South, and we lived out on some land, and this is kind of an interesting story. My mom leased some land to own it, put down some money, and we had no house on that land. So my siblings and we lived on the land for a year, and we built a longhouse, and we lived on the land through a full winter with this structure that we had built. We took pine cedar trees, debarked them, post hole dug, put them in the ground, tied them, wove trees, limbs, hay, tarps, and we had a fire pit in there, and it was a really interesting
That's
experience.
cool. I bet that sounds fun.
Yeah, it was like the poverty of my life, right? Like how are the stories of my life? How what do they mean to me now? I looked at those moments as these adventure moments, right?
Yeah.
And I call it the wilderness experience. I had a mentor tell me, take your stories of your life and put a title to them and write them out. And that one experience turned into the wilderness experience for me. But it's the most magical times of my life.
Yeah. That reminds me, we've been watching Naked and Afraid.
I like that shit.
And it sounds like you did your own little version. Maybe not naked, or like alone, and just living off the land and
Yeah.
working with what the land provides to
Yeah.
build a shelter, fire,
Mhm.
water, and
Yeah.
food. And
We were hippies.
yeah.
Mom was what do you call that? Gypsy. Gypsy, right? Where we kind of moved around a lot, and but built some good traits inside of me, jumping around to all these schools. Right? We went to a new school every 6 months to a year.
I moved around a lot
You
too.
too?
I just
More
never.
tie-ins with us.
Yeah, I mean, because I said I lived in Georgia, but that was from 4th grade to 7th or 8th grade, and then I moved to California
Mhm.
from 9th grade to my senior year. Then I moved back to Georgia, but I was actually born in San Antonio, Texas,
Mhm.
and that's where like most of my family still remains in San Antonio. So Texas, Georgia, California, and then
Yeah.
and then I did my army.
Yeah. Saw the world a little bit. Yeah. During that
Yeah,
experience?
I mean a little bit, mostly just Iraq
Yeah.
and Kuwait.
Yeah.
But
Thank you for your service.
it was pretty wild, and it was
Yeah.
it was fun. The experience. I recommend a lot of people, join the military if you are aimless or too wild. It'll kind of
Yeah.
give you some structure
Yes.
and give you a platform to jump off from
Mm-hmm.
to start like the next chapter in your life. If you don't do your 20 years, or you do your 20 years,
Yeah.
but it definitely helped me turn, like, mature from a
Mm-hmm.
boy to a man.
Big time.
And I found out, like, what I was made of. Like, they
Mm-hmm.
push you through your limits, physically, mentally,
Yeah,
not necessarily
nice.
spiritually, but I did find spirituality while I was in Iraq,
Yes.
just because I had a lot of time
Mm.
to, I don't know, the universe kind of like presented it to me while I
Mhm.
was there. I'm not sure exactly why,
Mm.
but that's when I started. I remember I would go up on top of our living quarters, and it was like the roof. You could go hang out on the roof. So I
Mhm.
was hanging out on the roof and doing yoga and meditating and looking at the stars. And the sky there is different than the sky here. It's
Yeah.
more like a purpley, hazy,
Wow.
as opposed to Woodland Park. We're above the clouds,
Mm-hmm.
so
We are.
it's more clear
Yeah.
here. Whereas there, it was, there was more like almost texture in the sky, but that's where I maybe like found some connection within,
Mhm.
and it started this whole process of the inner journey, which people need to quit looking for answers outside themselves
Mhm.
and asking other people, what do you think? I mean, you can do that. That's fine, I guess.
Yeah.
But I like what you said, like, what does this mean for me?
Mhm.
And then you're like, what do I mean
Mhm.
for it?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
pretty
It was
trippy.
ownership of some kind, and a connection that I hadn't considered. Yeah, and all of those mystical moments that took place, and the grounded return from those experiences are everything's connected,
Mhm.
highly connected. Our thoughts, feelings, emotions, acts, deeds. Not that we need to show up and be perfect, because that's unrealistic, and that's a fallacy of a lot of practices or religions. Yeah, but
Totally.
to show up in a way intentionally, to serve others. Those were the principles that came out of that experience, right? And yeah, it shapes me every day. It centers me and takes me in that right direction. And then the antenna, the radar is up. Yeah, if you have that moment of quiet redirection, so you can enter your day and really listen to someone that comes into your experience, and maybe you need to give them something. Maybe you need to show up for them and like just simply smile at them, or maybe you need to stop and have a full-blown hour-long conversation with a stranger, right? So those experiences happen to me all the time now because of getting still, and it's a constant battle. It's a constant practice, right? If I find I have a day or two without clarity and quiet, I get spun off in all these directions and all these initiatives, efforts. So it's kind of like air we breathe. It's that important, I believe, to get in there and just have some calm and peace,
Mm-hmm.
right? And love this thing first. Like, I think that calm and peace, for me, it allowed me to love me,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then that kind of radiance from this kind of region of the body, right? The heart. There's an energy there that kind of starts to shoot out, and people feel it.
Yeah,
right?
I feel it. I can see it, and like you're like kind of beaming with some sort of radiance.
And it wanes, yeah.
Of course.
It wanes. So I do some mental toughness things. So maybe some of the audience will like this, but you do training and MMA fighters, but yeah. So a part of my journey is the physical, yeah.
Yeah.
So how can I get into this body, and that's a gateway into higher states too. So currently I'm training for an Ironman. Say it kind of publicly to have more accountability and ownership over it. I've told a few people, And I saw the Iron Cowboy, James Lawrence, that did the 50 Ironmans in 50 states in 50 days.
No.
I saw him speak in Vegas, and he inspired the hell out of me. I recorded his talk, so I have it on a YouTube channel, and I can share it with you if you like.
I'd love it.
Yeah. So I'm up to 10 miles running and 25 miles on the bike. I'm going to start the swim part at the aquatic center. We got that aquatic center here. And go on a 24-month journey of showing up and getting grounded in the body, right? Because one thing it's hard for me to have too much of is some communities. They're so in a place of high vibration, right? They're almost like floating in the clouds, essentially. I have certain communities that I've been to that I love, but it's overwhelming for me. So my wife's encouraged me because she's the realist, grounded one.
Mine also.
Yeah, she encourages me, get grounded. So that's one step for me to get in the body, push it, and see what's possible. And I also feel that we all have a dream that's embedded inside of our subconscious, and some of us know what it is. Some of us have actively moved into it, and some of us aren't even aware that it's there. So meditation is one way to get really clear and look into the heart and mind and find, well, why are we here? There's a reason why we're here, I believe. And the soul contract it's there just waiting for us to reveal it. We knew what it was from a young age. Maybe it's something as a child when we were in an activity where time passed away. That feeling of doing something out of the sheer joy of it holds within it a great potential for your family, the community at large, the collective consciousness to do that thing. Move into that space of joy, love, dream. And then attach it to a goal, and do the whole thing to make it grounded and step by step, methodical tracking to get there, and relentless effort and all that. But I think we're afraid to dream, man.
Because you're not being realistic, and a lot of people will tell you that it's like be realistic, get a job, get married, to the traditional.
I held it for a long time.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't know what I was doing, which is why I joined the Army, because I was kind of going in a path towards a dead end of corporate life, which I just didn't have. I was working in a cubicle, and it was paying the bills, and it was fine, and it was kind of fun, like if you watch The Office, you can have a fun, relatively meaningful life in an office environment, but you're also trapped by the limitation that it holds, because you're not like your own boss, and we all kind of want something different, and some people don't, or at least they tell themselves they don't want to do what I'm doing, or do, like, working for someone else is good enough, and that's fine, or they're scared to take a risk because it's not guaranteed, and a guaranteed paycheck is safe, and it's warm and
fuzzy,
it pays the bills,
but prickly over time. The entrepreneur journey is super valuable. I have one of my best friends that climbed the corporate ladder from a bookkeeper to finance director to CFO, president of the company. So the entrepreneur journey has all this upside too. But the entrepreneur journey is it's not for the faint of heart. It's scary. It sucks at times. I mean, it sucks most of the time. Let's be real.
I remember laying in bed, at night, just with overwhelming anxiety about whether or not, how I'm gonna pay the bills or pay for some project that Sheath was endeavoring towards, whether it's just ordering more product or working with a particular influencer. And I make a deal with them, and now, okay, well, if it doesn't work out, I'm stuck with the bill. These YouTubers and fighters and stuff, they'll do the ad for you, but once you pay, or once you make the deal, if the ad doesn't work, you still have to pay them. And when you make the decision to put out a new product, if it doesn't sell, then you're stuck with whatever. We did a Kickstarter, and I met a lot of other Kickstarter entrepreneurs that that did successful projects, but one of the guys, he was selling phone cases, and he did a Kickstarter and he sold a successful Kickstarter for phone cases, but now he has a closet full of phone cases. Because once
of inventory.
Once just because you have a successful Kickstarter, now that's just the start. Now you got to build an audio, build from that platform, that launch pad of a core group of customers that are supporting you. I feel like they want to see you succeed, because they'll be a part of the journey with you from the beginning. And we still have a lot of the customers that were in that original Kickstarter.
Nice.
But I was able to grow from that, and I appreciate, every single one of my customers. And you have Sato company. What is, tell me about that. What is that?
Thank you for asking. Well, you mentioned VA, right? You probably got some great entitlements from being in the military.
For sure.
College and ability to buy a home with
it helped me pay for my
almost
college.
no money down, right?
When I got out of the military, the way I was able to pay the bills during the initial stages of SHEATH was through the VA. They were paying me to go to college.
Amazing.
And so I had to go to college to get the paycheck from the VA, and that helped kind of get through those first couple of years. And I got my master's degree because they were paying me.
Amazing.
And immediate, the universe kind of aligned itself, where once I got my master's degree, SHEATH started paying me. The VA stopped paying me, and then SHEATH started.
That's amazing. I bet there's so many moments in your trajectory that are really interesting. As mine, I got into real estate, so I have a real estate team, and it's currently only me. We've had buyer agents, virtual assistants. We leaned up, and now we're in the process of growth. I'm hiring on one of my best friends. He moved from Florida. He's going to be a buyer agent.
Nice.
And he's a recruiting guy. So
I like working with friends. They say don't hire your friends or family, but that's basically all of the people I work with.
Still have to have standards, etc. Of just growth or whatever. But I'm really honored that my buddy is doing 75 hard with me, and I'm on phase 2 of it. But
I know what that is.
I'm on day 13 of phase 2, so I'm at that real clarity place where you're eating good. I've worked out twice today already. Gallon of water, reading really important books. I'm reading the Iron Cowboys, Redefine Impossible, along with The Power of Kindness, which is a book that was gifted to me by these monks. They bought a home with me, right? They bought their spiritual center. Through Team Sato, and also Shoemade, that's also in Crestone, Colorado. They've purchased a couple of homes for spiritual centers in the Denver metro area.
How cool is that?
Yeah, so that's when you combine the physical world and the spiritual world in a really cool business setting.
Yeah,
that's the joy of my life. It's the most important thing I could possibly be doing, because I know of the impact that they have on communities, right? They get in there and they teach these practices of meditation. They teach these practices of honoring things, and appreciating art and beauty is a tenet of shume, along with natural agriculture. Yeah, so they do this process in Japan and all over the world. They have so many centers all over the world. But they wake up in the morning, all of their crew, and they pray. They pray over the crops that they're nurturing, yeah. And then they collect, the harvest. And at the end of the season, they put hay out and natural things out on the land to allow it to decompose and then come back and regenerate the earth, right? So I'm honored to be connected with a couple of those fellowships, and then it's connected through business too, which I always say, gosh, do business with your best friends too, right? But be very professional and right and hold, I don't know, guide people in the right way. But some people shy away from that, right? They're like, well, I shouldn't use my best friend for so and so and so. Maybe it's the wrong friend if you feel that way, but I've found the best business dealings I've ever done have been with family and friends, and then clients turn into family and friends for me, because I want that deep, deep connection with the people that I serve and people that I show up to. Really, really form true community, I call it. Yeah.
Yeah, if you can make a living doing like serving the people in your community, and it's like a win-win, and with friends and family, and we're all making money, and it helps you grow as a person, then I don't see anything wrong with that. And if you have a bad apple in the bunch, then you have to do what you got to do to distance yourself from them, which I've had to do. Yeah. But
that is realistic. That can happen. Yeah.
Yeah. We had, a couple of people, but for the most part, no one. Well, recently someone did quit, but we had no one quit SHEATH for like a decade. Wow. And I feel like part of it has to do with the economy. With we had hit a like stagnation point after COVID, because during COVID we like spiked hard.
Discretionary income.
Yeah,
and
online
all the pockets of all
exactly. Yeah,
individuals across the country.
Yeah, and then with all the money injected into
that's an
the
interesting
economy,
one.
yeah, and then it ultimately, like, a lot of people stopped working, and then it seemed like we had a bit of a recession.
The Great Resignation.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I do a lot of studying of that, and I was researching it recently, and I thought quantitative easing was something that had been around for a long time. It was first installed in 2008 for the Great Great Recession. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's when it was first installed, and it's been a vehicle ever since. And that's this massive level of debt we have is in part by that vehicle of massaging
the interest rates and all that, like 0% interest rates, or what do you? I don't even know. I've heard that quantitative easing, but I don't really understand what that is.
Yeah, it's what you said, printing money.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit scary.
Yeah, it has a negative effect ultimately. It seems like, anyways, so far. And they think because we, it's a world economy now, and because the whole world uses the dollar, or it kind of seems to be shifting away from that, or the potential of shifting away from the dollar as the world currency. Yeah. But that injecting all this money into the American economy didn't have as much of a negative effect as it could have if we didn't have the entire world using our currency. So it's still bad, but it could have been worse, I guess. And hopefully they're working to address that and reverse that through raising interest rates and making a more realistic monetary,
we're normalizing, right?
Yeah, recalibrating.
Which is great. I follow an economic forum. I'm a paid subscriber. It's called ITR Economics. I highly recommend anyone that's interested on what the economy is doing to check out that podcast. And I've read some of their books as well. And there's a big event that's supposed to happen. All the data is leading to this event, and it's in 2030. It's in exactly 100 years back in time is when the Great Depression happened. Okay, and it's based on populations in countries and the restricting of population growth, right? Some of these massive countries have said you have 1.5 children per household, that kind of a thing. China and some of the Asia countries, but China and Russia are going to be these big forces of this depression that's coming. And it's a little bit hard to grapple with, but yeah, I've been tracking it, and I'm encouraging everyone to buy hard assets.
Yeah.
Right, through inflationary times, and ride this wave of the next 7 years, and then if it is hard assets, sell them off right before that happens. And there's supposed to be this trajectory of a cycle downwards, especially in real estate, that will allow this huge opportunity in 3035 to scoop up things, not things, but homes and commercial properties, and for pennies on the dollar, and then ride this next wave of the greatest wave we'll ever experience in our time. So I'm excited about that, and that's a big kind of initiative and push for the real estate business to guide people through that. So
everyone is always screaming the end of the world is coming, and they got preppers, but it seems like, if you sold all your hard assets right before this occurrence, I'm thinking, like, if money lost all its value, what would you do with if you sold all your hard assets? Then you have nothing to barter or trade. But I don't know.
Good question. I a response for that. The goal is to have a primary property, pay it off 100%, so no one can ever take it away, pay off your cars, and then whatever additional funds you have, you put them into bonds. Yeah, and who knows what will happen, right? Cryptocurrencies, etc. But
exactly
to ride that wave in that capacity, to be solvent through it is kind of how my wife and I are moving.
I like that.
Into that,
especially owning your own house, owning your own vehicles, and then maybe
paid off.
Packing away some food.
Doomsday bunker. I also heard something interesting with this economic forum where the CEO was talking, and he said that his parents lived through that time, and his parents said, you know what? Brian is his name. There were certain people during that time that were okay. They were okay.
Yeah.
And it's because they had some of these measures in place, right? So it can be a time to thrive through that, but the ultimate giving and receiving of that favor or that preparation is then to support these nonprofit organizations that are going to be serving these populations that are really challenged. So it's kind of like a duty, obligation, responsibility, if you do move in that direction in the right way, to show up in the right way for those that are in need.
I could, because my mind kind of gears towards how can I take advantage of this situation when the economy crashes. That's when you want to buy, real estate for pennies on a dollar, or, that type of thinking. But also, you can build yourself up in your community by helping your community, and then that has a lot of value also. Because you could either keep everything for yourself or share in the wealth that will ultimately make you more wealthy, I think, because it's like
100%.
this reciprocal, what you give, you get, and what you put out comes back to you, and
correct
stuff like that.
I'm in complete alignment with you on that. Thank you for this time getting to know you.
I'm glad we haven't only been able to talk in passing, kind of like after class, and maybe here just seeing you give your speeches and stuff has been very impressive, and you are a very impressive person. You have a great energy.
Likewise.
I appreciate you taking the time to come on here. It's Friday night, so I'm gonna go have a little drink with the wife, hang out.
Nice.
But
what's your drink of choice?
I have been drinking probably Voodoo Rangers are like
Okay.
a juicy IPA. I was moving away from that because they're too strong.
Mm.
And so I was like, and I like to just drink beer. So I was buying lower alcohol content beverages just
Yeah.
for the drinking aspect. But I also just like wine,
Mm.
like a Pinot Noir.
Nice.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm bourbon.
Okay. So you like
And
the stronger.
yeah, the most recent one is Angel's Envy Rye. Love that finish to that one. It doesn't drink like a rye. It drinks more like a double barreled, something smoother. And
Yeah, I because I like to just drink. I can't do. I'll have some stronger beverages,
Yeah.
but then you have to drink less. And I like to just consume. I
Yeah,
do want to
and
open this real
good,
quick,
yeah,
if
yeah.
you don't mind. And
And I don't know what it is actually.
Yeah.
But it was given by the monks when they bought their spiritual center. They gave me that book, The Power of Kindness, and they gave me this. And I've just been holding it on kind of like my prayer area, right? My meditation space. And it's probably the flags and some of their chants and prayers. But I thought it would be served well for you to have it. And the energy of those monks are really impressive.
Yeah, I believe in energy, and you can totally feel when someone has a negative energy.
Yeah.
And then same with the positive energy. So
Yeah.
I am in alignment, and I'm so glad you came here. And do you have a website or anything?
I do, yeah. TeamSato.com.
Nice.
I'm on Instagram at Steven.Sato, and then also Team Sato Co. Yeah, everything kind of splinters off of that. I'm big into following my dream of music creation, so I want to write songs.
Wow.
So I have attached on my link tree on LinkedIn my music. I also have my spiritual story. I've made some videos and put them on YouTube.
Wow.
And
What's your YouTube channel then?
yeah, it is Stevie Lee Sato for music, and then Alchemy Light Collective for the spiritual side. I don't have a big following there, but
Yeah.
I like to share, and I want it as a time capsule. But
Exactly.
I think more people will show up there.
We have a bit of a music art community, Time Wheel. It's a non-profit organization
Really?
that supports the arts, music, and physical, like painting and
Amazing.
etc.
Your wife's a potter and painter?
My wife is a potter. My brother is the creator of Time Wheel. I'm a part owner.
Oh my gosh,
Just
cool.
small percentage owner. Like he's part owner of SHEATH. I'm
Yeah.
part owner of Time Wheel, and he's really charging the front for supporting art and artists in the community.
So it's a
because-
nonprofit.
Yeah,
Who do you serve?
it's literally artists, just artists trying to survive as an artist.
That's a tough go.
Yeah, exactly. So
I'd say do something that you can make a lot of income in,
yeah,
right? No matter what it is, to make sure you love it or whatever. But then do your art.
exactly.
Do your art in conjunction
I like that.
to have that greater fulfillment on your passion.
Clip that. Okay. Thank you, everybody. This was a great podcast. You never know what you're going to get. It's like Forrest Gump and a box of chocolates. So this was a great conversation. I'm very energized by getting this opportunity to talk to you. And I will see you on Tuesday where I deliver my next
I'm excited for it.
icebreaker, my whatever the sequel. It's not a sequel, but it's just, I'm just doing it over again.
Yeah.
Practicing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Practice makes perfect, and you have a fascinating story. So
You too.
I'm loving to hear more about it, and looking forward to learning more from you as a business owner and all the logistics of what this takes, and the level of favor you've found in your own journey is inspiring to me. So thank you.
likewise. All right. Peace.